Throughout the ages, there have been great empires and civilizations that have risen up, their creators ruling nations, regions, and continents for hundreds, even thousands of years. Some of the great legacies and accomplishments of these empires may be lost in the mists of time, but from what they have left behind in rock and ruin, we can trace remarkable stories.
China is one of the world's most ancient civilizations, along with the Babylonians, Mayans, and Egyptians. There has been official documentation of Chinese history for more than 3,000 years.
It is a success story of population movement, economic expansion, technological advancement, all in one. They typically view other people being less civilized to show how civilized they are. They use outsiders as a reference system to actually praise themselves. You know, we're different. We're the people leading civilization.
China has a long and rich history stretching back several millennia, with most of its many dynasties each holding power for several hundred years.
This idea of the narrative of sort of 5,000 years of unbroken history, this is a very successful narrative that has been crafted.
This ancient land is crossed by 50,000 rivers, including the Great Yangtze and Yellow Rivers. Traces of a 60,000-year-old so-called Peking man and other Neolithic humans have been found in these giant fertile river basins, which is where Chinese civilization began. There is evidence grain was being harvested here up to 10,000 years ago. This vast land expanse also includes rugged plateaus, foothills and mountains, which occupy nearly 2/3 of the country, higher in the west and lower in the east, like a three-step ladder. China was the first literate culture east of Mesopotamia. Reminiscent of the hieroglyphics of ancient Egypt, Chinese is the origin of the only pictographic writing system. The Chinese language was developed using images. Many of the Chinese characters we use today come from ancient drawings of the items they were meant to describe. A common example is the word for mountain, shan. The 3 points of the character are meant to resemble the 3 peaks of a mountain ridge.
It is rare in being one of the only languages left that is purely graphic. One of its great advantages is that it unifies different speech groups and different languages, in fact, because they can all read that script.
Isolated geographically from the Mediterranean and Europe, and with no great powers on its doorstep, its development was unique and underwritten by an administrative class that adhered to Confucian values and continuity.
There's this very powerful sense of what is Chinese culture. These ideas of sort of order, hierarchy, a lot of different styles that you could say were distinctively Chinese in terms of art, literature. So there's been strong identity around these things that is distinctive.
Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism are regarded as the 3 teachings underlying the foundations of Chinese culture.
And it's your combination of creatures, which maybe clash, which is bad for your fate, or in harmony, which is good for your fate. It tells you your fate.
Officially, China has 56 ethnic groups. Most minority groups have their own distinctive culture. Some also have their own language and writing system. Today, China is the world's 3rd largest country after Canada and Russia, bordered by 14 countries. It has been the world's fastest growing economy for the last 30 years and is now the world's 2nd largest. It's known as the factory of the world and is today the planet's biggest producer of many things, including concrete, steel, fertilizer, clothing, and toys.
Every nation has a story of itself, and I think China's story of the 5,000 years of unbroken culture is very powerful. There's the strength in it being unbroken, whereas the reality is always so much more messy and complicated. We have invasions, we have ruptures, we have crises, and these are perhaps glossed over instead by this kind of reference to a long-standing ancient culture.